everyone. I'm Miranda.
I'm Dan. Yeah, I'm Dan.
That's the name, right?
That's the name.
Welcome to this week's episode of 5 Minute Fridays.
It is Friday.
Thank goodness.
We'll let's give you a quick look at our gear, our setup here.
All right, streaming to YouTube. We're using vMix Pro version 21.
Using a PTZ Optics USB 20X camera through USB 3.0.
Yep. The new X Keys mouse mat and vMix Social with Kindle Fire. So drop us some comments.
And where's that overlay?
Yeah, it is right here.
Fantastic X-Keys XKE 124 T-bar, which is controlling the show right now. See all those pretty blinking lights. You can get your own today at xkeys.com.
Yep.
So we are continuing our series on mouse functions, turning an X key into a mouse button or an action.
Yep.
And we mentioned briefly last week absolute mouse and something we call hardware mode. Somebody I know through this little tutorial together, we're going to play for you right now, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Yep.
So we're going to program this X Keys USB 3 switch interface with our little one button attached to it to send what we call a hardware mouse command. And the difference between what we call hardware and software is that in hardware, the macro is saved in the X Keys memory. I'll be able to take this to any device, plug it in, and it will send the mouse command to that device just as if it were a USB mouse plugged in. Software mode, we use a piece of software on the desktop that translates actions from the X Keys into whatever macro we have. That's the difference between hardware and software. In order to communicate in hardware mode as a mouse, we have to use the units that your standard USB mouse uses, and those units are called Mickeys. That is a distance measurement. And so in order to translate our coordinates on a desktop into this distance measurement that the mouse can speak, we've written this little utility. It will be included in the new software. If it's not in your version, you can update or contact us if you need it. We'll get it to you. And so here's the utility. It's called the absolute mouse calibration. I select the X keys that I have. I only have one on this PC, but if I had more, you'd have a list here. And I'm going to hit this calibrate button. And if you notice very quickly, it brought my cursor up into this corner of the desktop, and then down here, it identified those two coordinates in pixel count, and it's giving a pretty good translation of what those would be in a hardware Mickey value. So I want to click on this file over here, and I see here that we're at roughly 100 in the X coordinate and 167 in the Y. So those are the values I'm going to use. Get that out of the way. Going to launch MacroWorks here. Again, I only have one X key selected, so it's coming up with that one. I want hardware mode. I have one switch connected, so what's going to come up is switch 2. And you see when I press this button, switch 2 opens for programming. Now I want the function tab, show functions, mouse. We want movement, and mouse move absolute hardware is the function I'm looking for. Here's the Mickey value. We said 100 in the X and 167 in the Y. So there's that move. Now I want the left button to go down, and I want to stay down until I let this button up. So I'm going to put the left up on the release. There's my macro. Save that. Now in hardware mode, since the macro is saved in the device, I actually have to do one more step and write it to the device. There we go. I'll minimize this. If I did everything correctly, it's going to take my cursor up to this nonsense file and hold the button down. There we have it. I can drag it around and drop it in the stuff folder. And every time I press this button, it's going to take my cursor back to that location and hold the button down.
right.
There you have it. So that's how to program absolute mouse move in hardware mode.
Awesome. Definitely interesting. I didn't know you could do that until you showed me.
There's our quick five. So we'll close this out and we'll have some more fun in the post show.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
And we're back.
We are, and I said something about giveaway in the chat, and man, did the chat light up here. Everybody likes free stuff, right?
Of course. All right. It looks like we do have a question, though. Why is it when you only have one switch plugged in, it shows up as switch 2 and not 1?
Okay. If you want to bring this camera up here, I'll show
Yes. Oops, not that. My bad. Hold on, guys.
Okay. This is the mono plug, and the way that these 3.5 millimeter plugs are wired, if I have two or stereo connector, it's going to be down here, and you can have up to like 3 other connections with what we call a TRRS plug on this thing. And this little switch port in the back of the switch interface will accept up to 3 switches in that. Because of the way this is constructed, if you're using just a mono plug in it like this one is, it's going to show up as switch 2. If you have a stereo plug in it, you'll have 1 and 2.
Sheesh Louise, Miranda, get it together.
There you go. If you have if you have the TRS plug, they'll show up as 1, 2, and 3. It's just kind of a quirk of the way that the wiring on that plug relates to the wiring in our hardware.
Good question.
And yeah, that's a good one.
Yep. Deeker, thank you for showing. I need to program in hardware mode mouse movement for my equipment. So
a little bit of a warning there, Deeker. This absolute mouse function is only available on certain of our devices, on the newer ones, like the switch interface, the 128, the 124. If you have to have it on a 24 key, we have a way of updating the firmware for that. I don't recommend it unless you need it. Also, if you can use our software rather than hardware mode, that's there are a couple of reasons why we prefer that. But yeah, if you need it, contact us and we will definitely help you get it working.
yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So I think you should tell them about this giveaway.
Okay, so yeah, we discussed this and we decided we'll give it a try. But I've got to throw some caveats on it first.
Yep.
Because shipping overseas is so expensive that if the winner is outside of North America, you'll have to pay for the shipping to get your product. So
Yep.
back over here.
Alrighty.
So what we're going to give away is the switch interface, and this is a new product that we haven't quite launched yet. It's called X-Keys One Button. It's just a single switch. And here's the contest. If you are watching right now live and you can name the cartoon character on this button, it's all yours. Can anybody do that?
I don't know. I feel like we needed some music going. Do do do
Do-
do do.
We're watching the chat. Google won't help you on this one.
Nope.
Well, I'll give you one hint. It's a kind of an obscure cartoon from the 60s. And PI employees are not allowed to enter this contest because I already quizzed some of them to find out just how obscure this was. And it's pretty obscure.
Yep.
Okay. I guess I'm keeping it.
I guess so.
So, any more questions?
Come back here.
Do we have anything in there?
Oops.
The button with the rat.
It's a good guess, but not the answer we're looking for.
Sorry, Tommy. Ask your mule. Maybe he knows. He or she. How do you address a mule, Tommy?
Ooh, here's one.
That's almost correct. That is the name of the cartoon. It is not, however, the name of the mouse.
So close.
So close. But we'll give you another shot.
Yep.
Of course, now you can Google that cartoon and look up the name of the mouse. So I don't know if we could allow that. So, okay.
I feel like you got close,
Any more
though.
questions about our mousey stuff?
I don't think so.
You know where to find us if you do.
Yep.
Okay, happy
right.
Friday, everybody.
Tune in next week.
We'll see you next week. What are we talking about next week?
I forget.
I forget.
There is a plan,
We'll
I
throw something in
swear.
the comments to tell you what next week's show is about. Okay.
All right. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.